Hello and welcome to another Looney Tunes review video. If you are new to the channel, make sure you subscribe to follow my journey to review all 1000 Looney Tunes shorts and give this video a like as well. So this is a review for I Wish I Had Wings, released in 1932. It's the 42nd in the series and it's directed by Rudolph Ising. This one, if you need a physical media release, it's on the Golden Age of Looney Tunes Volume 5 Laserdisc set, but recently a restoration appeared on HBO Max. It's also in the public domain, so it's easy to find on YouTube and other places. And hey, because it's in the public domain, I'll have the full cartoon playing after the review, but for consistency's sake, I'll just go over what actually happens, and it's not really much. You just got a few shenanigans on the farm, then later on a black-coloured chick is born, who wishes he had wings even though he's a bird, but anyway, we'll leave it at that, and then he runs away from a scarecrow at the end, and that's pretty much it. Now, the original commentary for this is still up, using the older print before this beautiful new HBO Max remaster became available, but I wanted to redo this and all the Merrie melodies alongside the Boscos, and then of course, once I get into the buddies, I want to continue the Merrie melodies, because my good friend Manny Cruz, he has a Masters in Music, and he's, well, studies music, I would have hoped, to get that Master's degree. So I've invited him to discuss this cartoon as well. So first up, you'll see a remix of my original thoughts for the short, then any additional information I found out since, and then you'll hear from Manny, and then you'll get the full cartoon at the very end. So definitely grab that popcorn and enjoy. It's pretty much an excuse for the farmyard animals to, like, for the animators just to do, gags based on farmyard life. I like the problem solver here. Not only was there the problem solver with using the stethoscope to find the worm, which, I don't know if that would work, but yeah, chop them up, why not? The gag you're going to see here is a bit of a repeat of a gag used in Bosco's fox hunt, though in this case it's not as cruel. In this case the fox bit the dog. So it's right here. So just change the worm to the fox and the chicken to the dog, and yeah, it was definitely more aggressive, but that's one tough worm dude, I suppose. Yeah, it's telling that they've gone from starting off where it was just a full-on music videos to just, let's just put the song in just briefly and get it over and done with. So the rooster only now finds out he's going to be a dad. Well, she must have hidden it pretty well by this time. I do like how the rooster goes for the doctor. Yeah, we're now heading into the last third, and only now we get some sort of a story in this, which is they're all, really coloured chicks, and this is the one black chick, which is darkly humorous, to be honest. No opportunities for the dark chick. Yeah, I'm sure we could read into that now, can't we? But the song that the bird starts, that this black chick starts singing, he notices all that food over there, saying, I wish I had wings. Buddy, you've got wings. You're a bird. You should be singing, I wish I could fly. But anyway, well, this is where the cartoon at least gets decent. That scarecrow should be coming up any moment. There it is. I like that design, because they've got to throw a bad guy in at the end, right? So some additional thoughts. Now, I've actually noticed that there are a few more repeated sequences from earlier films, and, we've got to put these into context, because when people were watching these things at the time, they wouldn't binge watch it, they'd watch it one at a time. And so I don't really blame Harmonizing for reusing stuff, because, obviously it lowers the budget, and I would imagine that this particular studio would not have had much of a budget to begin with. So this bit, for example, where the ducks are going to be marching and that is retaken from Hold Anything, so, but at least here it makes sense why they would actually reuse this particular scene. Also, the chase you're going to see here, just before the repeat from Bosco's Fox Hunt, is from 8 Nature Grand, so again, it makes sense why they would reuse that particular bit, but for those of us binge watching all of these in a row, it can be definitely a bit of a chore seeing the same thing over and over, but again, I can't blame them. As mentioned, I do love the design of this scarecrow. In fact, the only real good part about this, except maybe the song's actually alright, but it's this final chase here at the end with the silly woo, whatever that Scarecrow's trying to say, which is absolutely ridiculous, and the animation of the Scarecrow having a peg leg, but not really much happens. I mean, as you can see, he's just gets his head hit like that, burned alive, and see you later, and that's the end of the cartoon, so yeah, really weird. In any case, over to you, Manny.
Hi everyone, this is Manny Cruz, the Toonie Tenor, giving some commentary and some musical trivia for the 1932 Merrie Melodie, I Wish I Had Wings, directed by Rudolph Ising. So, first I want to say is that back in 2018, I was given the idea by Matt Hunter, another one of my friends that have collaborated with Anthony on these commentaries, about watching all the Looney Tunes and Merrie Melodies in chronological order, starting with Sinking in the Bathtub in 1930 and ending with Engine Trouble in 1969. Apologize for the term. And I started with Sinking in the Bathtub around May of 2018. And I actually documented when I saw this cartoon last as part of the chronological viewing. So I saw this cartoon August 27th, 2018. So it's been about almost 4 years since I've seen it. And there's some thoughts behind it, some things that I noticed in the cartoon, things I want to bring up. So, for starters, in the beginning of the cartoon, when the rooster was cock-a-doodle-dooing, I felt kind of like I was in that moment because earlier today I sang for a church mass. I'm a professional singer, and I sing all over the place. And I'm always having to remind myself about the proper technique and, support. Keep your chest nice and open and elevated and support from the bottom and all that. And seeing the rooster, trying to maintain the cock-a-doodle-doo and seeing his chest collapse. As a singer, it made me laugh. I was like, hey, brother, I know where you're coming from. Cool when the rooster got all the ducks to start marching, and I noticed that he was counting in German. I heard him say, 1, 2, 3, 4. And what was nice is that the music underscore from Frank Marsalis was Ach du lieber Augustin, which is like the stereotypical German song to hear in these theatrical cartoons. I chuckled a little bit at the gag of one of the birds, their beak as like a screw to get into the ground to put the worm in. Thought that was pretty clever. And the part with the meat grinder where the worms were like split into a few. I was at a thrift store a few days ago. Actually, in that thrift store, I purchased a Daffy Duck cup, which is pretty neat. And it had in the front where you pay for your purchases, it had a list of things that have changed from the 60s to now, like the gas of price. The price of gas, not the gas of price. See, the prices are so high here that I'm even screwing up the order of the words. Gas prices have increased, and the cost of food, and the cost of rent, and so on and so forth. And I had a little section in the front where the cashier was that spoke about jobs that were obsolete and products that were obsolete. And one of the things I saw in there was a meat grinder. And I was like, oh, well, I'm pretty familiar with a meat grinder. I mean, I don't see them too often, but I'm familiar with them thanks to these theatrical cartoons. And this one, or I'm thinking in particular, 1936 is Sinbad the Sailor, the Popeye cartoon, the first color Popeye cartoon, where Wimpy is chasing after the duck with a meat grinder because, he's got to have his hamburger. 2 other things of note, or let's say 2-3 other things of note for this cartoon that I've noticed. The scene where the hen is sewing the clothing in preparation for her baby has been used multiple times in Warner Brothers cartoons. I'm trying to think off the top of my head how many cartoons have used that specific animation. When I was watching this, I was like, this is the earliest, this is where they got that particular scene from. One cartoon that pops into my head is 1941's The Henpecked Duck from Bob Clampett. And the same thing happens where Mrs. Daffy Duck is, preparing for her newborn, and Daffy's like, oh, I'm going to be a dad and all that. And, I mean, Warner Brothers has reused animation multiple times, but I forgot that this was the origin of that particular mother hen, mother duck preparing for their newborn. I thought the part with the stork being a doctor is pretty clever because, you associate babies with storks in these cartoons. The ending was very abrupt. And then again, with these early Merrie Melodies, the conflict usually comes near the end of the cartoon. But for me, this was super, super abrupt. Like, I was looking at the runtime for the cartoon, and it was like 6 minutes in. I'm like, wait a minute, where's the antagonist? Where's the end of the cartoon where the tempo of the song increases and, everything gets wrapped up in a neat little package? There's my Simpsons reference for the day. And one other thing, too, when I was watching it, so I was watching this from the HBO HD restoration, and I'm like, do I remember the black chicken not saying anything? When he popped out of the egg and he sees his dad and he says, "Hi, Pop." And I'm like, wait a minute, why does this sound muted? And I was like kind of weirded out. And I was trying to remember, did I hear something when I saw this a few years ago? So I double checked on Looney Tune Wiki, which isn't always the most accurate source of information, but it did say that the HBO Max restoration used the audio track that's only a music and effects track whenever they would dub these cartoons in foreign languages. And it's from, I think, around the time when Turner was making the dub versions of these cartoons in 1995. So yeah, that's a snafu on their part. HBO Max, when they were doing the restoration, they used the wrong audio track, which to me, it's a little bit of oversight and a little bit of sloppiness, but I'm not going to get into that whole, issue right there with the whole proper way of preserving things and whatnot, because I'm not an expert on the subject, and I'm not going to throw my hat into the proverbial ring. I will say is, boy, I hope somebody got fired for that blunder. So there's my second Simpsons reference. So now it's time. So I prepared a little jingle. I was actually trying to get it on the piano, but I'm still working out the chords and everything. I'm not the best piano player in the world, but here's a rough take of it. So, ladies and gentlemen, here we go. me. Excuse me, lots of phlegm. It's time for Manny's Music Time. Some music trivia for you today. Still working on it, so like I said, you heard a demo for it. So the title song of this cartoon is I Wish I Had Wings, which was composed by Harry M. Woods. And I have a little information about him that I'll speak to you in a second. The song itself was recorded in 1932 for Victor Records, and it was recorded by Bert Lohn and his orchestra, and Elmer Feldkamp on vocals. And I really want to thank, in particular, James Parton. James Parton is a contributor on Cartoon Research, probably the best resource, best blog on animation history out there it's my homepage on my computer. And James Parton has been doing a series of blog posts called Needle Drop Notes, where he documents a little bit of the history of the songs that were used in the early Looney Tunes and Merrie Melodies, and now he's been branching out on other things like songs from the Max Fleischer cartoons and so on and so forth. So if you're really interested in cartoon music history and everything, I highly recommend that you read his blog postings, and I did source a lot of my knowledge from him, so I want to shout him out and thank him for his contributions. So a little bit about Harry M. Woods. Harry McGregor Woods was born in North Chelmsford. I'm unfamiliar how to pronounce this, but it's Chelmsford. So let's say Chelmsford, Massachusetts, on November 4th, 1896. He came from a musical family. His mother was a concert singer, and he did take piano lessons. And I read that he had actually a deformity in his left hand, but he was able to prevail with it. He attended probably the most prestigious university in the world, Harvard University, and he supported himself during his studies by singing church choirs and also giving piano recitals. He became a farmer after he graduated and settled in Cape Cod, and he started writing music a lot, and he became a prominent figure in Tin Pan Alley. By 1926, he was already relatively established, and he wrote a song, a very famous song called When the Red, Red Robin Comes Bob, Bob, Bobbing Along, which was recorded by multiple people like Paul Whiteman and Cliff Edwards, but in particular, the recording that was done by the very famous Al Jolson became a hit at that time. Harry M. Woods is in the Songwriters Hall of Fame. He was inducted in 1970, and sadly, he died in January of 1970 when he was hit by a car. And he, like I said, he wrote When the Red, Red Robin Comes Home. He wrote this title song, and for other famous songs included in the Warner Brothers cartoons, he was also the composer of I'm Looking Over a Four-Leaf Clover, which has been used a lot in Warner Brothers cartoons. In particular, one that I did a commentary with Anthony and Matt on was first Roadrunner cartoon, Fast and Furious. Those are my thoughts for this cartoon. If I had to give it a rating, I mean, some of these early Merrie Melodies and early Bosco shorts are a bit of a slog to get through. This one, it was meh. It's really the only word I could think of. It's not the worst thing I've ever seen, but I would have to give it a 5 out of 10. It really was just very meh throughout the whole thing, and the resolution at the end was very abrupt. But, you know, these cartoons were meant to push the Warner Brothers song catalog, and if they were doing their job, I mean, the series lasted, so it clearly was doing its job. So those are my thoughts and my Manny's music time for I Wish I Had Wings. So I hope you all have a wonderful day. That's all, folks.
Thanks, Manny. And yeah, I happen to agree with you on the actual rating. I'll be giving this one 5 out of 10. And when I watch these earlier ones, I do take into account that it's not going to match the later Warner Brothers or the wonderful Disneys that were coming around this time when the Popeyes, of course, were starting not long after this. So, but yeah, it's just dull. It's got a few nice animated moments, despite, of course, the cheating involved. And I like the design of the Scarecrow and one or two of the gags, but it's okay. It's okay. It's not the worst I've seen. That is yet to come. So, without further ado, here is the full cartoon, so enjoy. Or try to enjoy at least.
boy. Hi, Pop! They got wings! But here am I, hungry, and all that food there! But how am I to get in there? Ah, I wish I had wings! Wings, wonderful wings! Glory be, look what I see! Now I'll have wings!
Now he's got wings, wonderful wings. There'll be no trouble and woe, 'cause he's got wings. Wa-doo, wa-da. The little bird sings, oh how he sings. 'Cause he's got wings, 'cause he's got wings. He can fly way up high, 'cause he's got wings. But here are we, with a worry and care. And all our dreams get us nowhere, get nowhere. And now he's got wings, oh he's got wings. Wonderful wings, oh wonderful wings. Glory be, he's so free, 'cause he's got wings.